Donald Trump has named J.D. Vance as his new running mate after having tried to have his previous vice president assassinated, but while he's running an especially disciplined campaign thus far, the choice to select J.D. Vance is actually a major liability for Trump on numerous different fronts. First off, there are Vance's comments about his new running mate, Donald Trump. Here's just a small sampling of some of what he had said in the past.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
It makes you think that at a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
I cannot stand Trump because I think he's a fraud. Well, I think he's a total fraud that is exploiting these people, who is a total fraud.
Like you said, I agree with you on Trump because I don't think that he's the person. I don't think he actually cares about folks.
So as a conservative who thinks that Trump does not have the answers and isn't qualified to be president, what are you going to do this election, if you don't mind saying?
My current plan is to vote either third party or, as I joke to my wife, I might write in my dog because that's about as good as it seems. But, you know, I think there's a chance, if I feel like Trump has a really good chance of winning, that I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. Ultimately, I think I'll probably vote third party. I might vote for this new guy who I really like, Evan McMullin, who I actually met the other day. But I think that I'm going to vote third party because I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
He's leading our political discourse to a very negative place. If Trump is elected president, he has to be a much different president than he was a candidate. As a candidate, he was fundamentally divisive, arrogant.
There's this message in 2016, but I'm not surprised by Trump's rise, and I think the entire party has only itself to blame. We are, whether we like it or not, the party of lower income, lower education white people, and I've been saying for a long time that we need to offer those people something, and hell, maybe even expand our appeal to working class black people in the process, or a demagogue would. We are now at that point. Trump is the fruit of the party's collective neglect. I go back and forth between thinking Trump is a cynical asshole like Nixon who wouldn't be that bad and might even prove useful, or that he's America's Hitler. How's that for discouraging? Or this 2016 piece from The Atlantic when Vance wrote that Trump was like cultural heroin. Quote, to every complex problem, he promises a simple solution. He never offers details for how these plans will work because he can't. Trump's promises are the needle in America's collective vein. Trump is cultural heroin. He makes some feel better for a bit, but he cannot fix what ails them, and one day they'll realize it. And in October 2016, after the Access Hollywood tape was released, Vance wrote a since-deleted tweet, fellow Christians, everyone is watching us when we apologize for this man. Lord help us. And in another since-deleted tweet, Trump makes people I care about afraid. Immigrants, Muslims, etc. Because of this, I find him reprehensible. God wants better of us. If Vance's more recent behavior is any indication, I guess God has since settled for less. Which reveals something telling. J.D. Vance knows who Trump is, but because Trump is the vehicle for Vance's rise to power, suddenly Vance is playing the same game that the rest of his party plays, and pretends that the guy who Vance himself admitted was reprehensible is suddenly the second coming of Christ. Although I guess we shouldn't be surprised that in a party led by a guy whose entire identity is predicated on lying to his supporters would be other elected officials whose entire identities are predicated on lying to their supporters. J.D. Vance has become the exact thing that he once criticized Trump for being, if not worse, considering we all know that he knows better, but is pretending otherwise because he can leverage this act to gain power for himself. But I also don't want to delude myself or you into thinking that Republicans having zero long-standing principles actually matters to the GOP base, because clearly it doesn't. The Republican Party is filled with politicians who gave their true thoughts about Trump until the moment it became politically inconvenient, only to then pivot once they realized their own political survival depended on kissing the ring. But more worrisome for Trump is the stances that J.D. Vance now espouses. Let's start with the most damaging, his stance on abortion rights. This is from J.D. Vance's website, which of course now just redirects to a donation page for him and Trump. Surprise, surprise. Quote, I am 100% pro-life, and I believe that abortion has turned our society into a place where we see children as an inconvenience to be thrown away rather than a blessing to be nurtured. Eliminating abortion is first and foremost about protecting the unborn, but it's also about making our society more pro-child and pro-family. The historic Dobbs decision puts this new era of society into motion, one that prioritizes family and the sanctity of life. And if you think 100% pro-life at a time when Republicans are seeking to ban abortion nationwide is bad, listen to his comments on rape.
I think two wrongs don't make a right. At the end of the day, we're talking about
an unborn baby. What kind of society do we want to have? A society that looks at unborn babies as inconveniences to be discarded?
Should a woman be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape?
Look, my view on this has been very clear, and I think the question betrays a certain presumption that's wrong. It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society. The question really to me is about the baby.
That rape is an inconvenience for women. I wonder how the hundreds of thousands of rape victims all across the country would feel about that kind of rhetoric from J.D. Vance. And more importantly, what it says about the kind of abortion policy that he and Donald Trump would promote. Because here's a hint. There's nothing moderate about it. Aside from his abhorrent abortion views, Vance would seek to block common sense gun safety reforms, thinks the US shouldn't fund Ukraine and that Ukraine should cede land to Russia to end the war. He's undermined trust in the 2020 election and has accused the Biden administration of persecuting Trump. And most chillingly, he approves of the most dangerous elements of Project 2025 that would pave the way for authoritarianism for Donald Trump himself.
Project 2025. I reviewed a lot of it. There's some good ideas in there, Rob.
I tend to think that we should seize the institutions of the left and turn them against the left, right? We need like a de-Bathification program, but like a de-wokification program in the United States, right? So like, let me give you a couple examples. So one of the things I've always been very sympathetic to is this idea that we don't have a real constitutional republic anymore. What we have is an administrative state, right? The administrative state controls everything, right? So to the point that like when Donald Trump wins, he can't even sometimes get his people in core positions of authority in the administrative estate. It's like, well, do we have a constitutional republic? The founding fathers actually created a very powerful chief executive, a very powerful president. But if he can't even fire the people in his own administration, like, is this really a successful republic? So a lot of conservatives have said we should deconstruct the administrative state. We should basically eliminate the administrative state. And I'm sympathetic to that project, but another option is that we should just seize the administrative state for our own purposes. We should fire all of the people. I mean, I think Trump is going to run again in 2024. I think he'll probably win again in 2024, and he'll win by a margin such that he will be the president of the United States in January of 2025. I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. And when the courts, because you will get taken to court, and then when the courts stop you, stand before the country like Andrew Jackson did and say the Chief Justice has made his ruling, now let him enforce it. Because this is, I think, a constitutional level crisis.
In fact, there's so little daylight between him and Trump that even Biden pointed it out.
It's a clone of Trump on the issues. A clone of Trump on the issues. So I don't see any difference.
So here's the gamble by Trump. He feels so confident in this election that he chose someone in J.D. Vance who is a carbon copy of him. He didn't choose someone who might offer a permission structure for black voters or female voters or Hispanic voters to come on board. He just went full MAGA. Does that reveal how confident Donald Trump feels right now? Absolutely. But it also creates a major liability for him because Trump's agenda is not popular. And by association, Vance's identical agenda is also not popular. Our job is to ensure that people know what that agenda is, because once they know, Americans aren't going to vote for it. I've got a really exciting announcement. I've written a book. It's called Shameless. This book explores how Republicans have exploited their historical branding while attacking our democracy, how the media has proven itself a willful participant, and how Democrats can learn from this to rebalance the political scales and save our democracy. It has been a lifelong dream of mine to write my own book, and so I'd like to ask you to pre-order it by clicking the link right here on the screen. And if you buy within this pre-order period, your book is going to come with a signed nameplate. As you know, I've never had a single sponsor on my channel. I don't ask for money or anything like that, but if you're looking for a way to support me, this is hands down the best way to do it. So again, follow the link right here on the screen, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for pre-ordering Shameless. And as always, make sure to subscribe to see more of my content.